regulators are all talking about sustainability, are all talking about how the world is. And Indonesia, as Kadin, we are setting up a so-called roadmap when we call as the Golden Indonesia of 2045, and it will be very much influenced with sustainability or with ESG values. And so, even in if you heard of our new capital city being planned, what we want to see is that this new capital city of Indonesia will become the symbol of Indonesia, Golden Indonesia in 2045, and by 2045 we have a new capital city in a new position with a new, with what we say as Indonesia future. Sustainability is becoming an agenda for the finance market also. You can see recording $700 billion worth of sustainable debt instruments. Look at how dedicated sustainable funds on sustainability. If you look at how the growth from 2012 to 2020, from 0.5 trillion US dollars to now 1.7 trillion. And then on sustainable debt instruments, even if they're talking about from 5 billion in 2012, now 700 billion dollars in 2020. And also, it also now affecting what we call the cost of capital. As you can see that, there is always a so-called premium or a better pricing for companies with commitment of sustainability, and that reduced the WACC to around 0.2 to 1.1 pp's. Now, look, and even at companies, our companies are actually been very decisive in implementing these sustainable commitments. As you can see, if you look at from compliance all the way to capturing the value, now the sustainability is actually the driver of values for companies. Now looking at the social enterprise in Indonesia, how is creating jobs for minority group, but also some of the challenges. On social enterprise workforce, an example, 40% female versus 25% in other enterprise. And then, for example, now 90% millennials versus 30% in other enterprises. And in also social enterprises workforce, there's disabled people around versus 8% in other enterprises, 12 versus 8. So you can see how the minority group has been the compromising of the workforce on social enterprises. Of course, we have some challenges by the social enterprises. So of course, the first one is access to finance. This is hindering the social ability to actually allocate budgets to innovation. But I think it's changing. Yes, it is changing. And also access to mentorship, because not so many experienced mentors or business support on this. And of course, access to talent as challenges to attract skilled resources. And the private sector can also use its policies now for activities to support the social sectors. Just to give a glimpse of what are the private sectors or companies that put their business activity as a core business, as sustainability at the core. Look at the Lilly and Seed partnership. There's a $30 million investment over 5 years to research on new comprehensive approaches to treat non-communicable diseases in the developing countries. Look at how Gilead HIV therapy used in low and middle income countries is to produce and sold by licensed partners, and this lowering the price by 80%. And looking at Coca-Cola, working together with various players, including the Global Fund Tanzania, medical stores, on improving cold chain drugs and vaccine deliveries, and even on influence policies, which is then Novo Nordisk in collaboration with the Association and Industry Group works on to elevate important initiatives on the national agenda. You can see how the process for how the private sectors activities have been supporting this social sectors, and it's in a big way. Now talking about Indonesia. So I'm bringing this to Indonesia with a new concept of investing in Indonesia. I can see how the financial focus, balance focus on impact, focus on how we are now moving towards this what we call as a balanced focus, impact versus profit. And I think I borrowed this from one of the Veronica, who is very well known to be the promoter of social enterprise in Indonesia. But it is a new concept for Indonesia. And now let's go to the landscape of social entrepreneurship in Indonesia. I mean, we're talking about the number of social enterprises starting in Indonesia has risen significantly in recent years. Look at we estimated, assuming it's a 1.5% of social enterprise present within the SME. And if that is 1.5%, that's me estimating there's 300,000 of social enterprises exists in Indonesia. And then 67 on age, 67 of social enterprise leaders were found to be young, between 18 and 4 years old. And then also women empowerment. Social enterprises were more likely to be led by women. And so this is at 4%. And then on legal registration, most social enterprises tend to be registered as PT by 40% and foundation at 20%. Here to say that this is one of the push that actually a lot of us in Indonesia is trying to push to put it into a law and recognizing entrepreneurs and particularly social entrepreneurs, in which we are trying to push for a special entity of social enterprises, because right now Indonesia does not have a social enterprise entity per se. And so this is what we've been pushing, and Kadin will play a role in actually pushing these issues. And so that ultimately what we want is we want to have a PT social enterprise, or a entity of our social enterprise entity. And on sectors, most of the social credit on the creative sector is about 22%, on agriculture and fishery 16%, on education is 15%, and services 13%. And the roles are critical to the contribution of the sustainable and inclusive growth. They actually support national objectives, educating the nation, and also improving public welfare, and also contributing to the economy. And also, social enterprise is helping feed the gaps left by the government programs. And we see that how important social enterprise and how social enterprise in Indonesia is actually increasingly more recognized and more important. And actually now the government are also, especially with President Joko Widodo, very concerned about the social impact of various situations. If you think about the philosophy of Indonesia, our constitution, or we call it Pancasila, of our values, and if we integrate the Pancasila in the economic way, actually it's not socialism, it's not capitalism, actually in the middle, it's in between. It's actually the existence of social enterprise economy. We have an impact on COVID-19 on social enterprises in Indonesia. I mean, unfortunately, we've been having this happening all over the world, in Singapore and other parts of the world, and we are fighting to win this. We call it the war against pandemic, and here we want to make sure that we can win the war against this pandemic. And so 75% of the youth social entrepreneurs believe that the pandemic has negatively impacted their business. 45% of the respondents attributing this demand on on conducting transaction due to social distances. So those are things, example of the COVID-19 impact: sales and distribution, human resource and workforce, working capital and short-term financing, and also, of course, the CapEx and short-term financing. And those, so similar enterprises, and particularly more severe for the social entrepreneurs, because without the COVID, it's really challenging to actually work with the financial institution in Indonesia, and particularly with this, it is also more impactful. But this is the homework of Kadin, and how we actually can be able to support this ecosystem of social enterprises, including the financing side of the We see the opportunity areas of social enterprise, agriculture, because access to food is a priority during this crisis, an example. So we have some walks, easy retail as an example there. Waste and circular economy. We have example of mall sampah and non-trash. And then on gender lands investing, we We have Duanyam as an example, which is very interesting. And here is how you see that many of the leaders of social enterprise in Indonesia are Muslim, and that's a very interesting phenomenon. And on the SME, MSME development, that is something also that 75% of Indonesian MSME reported sales decreased by maybe 50%. And here we also the acceleration of digitalization, and here where Kadin is also taking a part to actually push for the new of Kadin is being inclusive and also collaborative. And inclusive means is that Kadin is the house for all businesses, from the largest business to medium to small, even to micro. But even so, the micro side, try to uplift the dignity of our micro businesses. As an example, in Indonesia, when we talk about selling ball, we call it bakso, and we also used to say it's tukang bakso. Tukang bakso is not a word anything to do with entrepreneurship. So what we have to tell you now that we have someone who is micro businessman who's selling bakso or this with the dignity, so the children and everything feel that the dad is really a businessman, although that he is a micro, because selling with a gerobak, like a hotel with a gerobak, wheeler, which if it's one wheeler maybe it's micro, but if you really have 10 or 20, you become a small businessman. So we have to give a dignity also to our micros and small businesses. This is one of the case study. This is something is a GSI lab. Is a pity, but then shoulders because Indonesia doesn't have a social enterprise entity. The shareholders have committed to make this GSI as PT but social enterprise. And this we've been having this company or this GSI lab, the capacity of PCR tests per day, and we have almost tested 100,000 PCR till August 2021. This is one of the way that we will also present to the government how social enterprise works and how profits are being put back for the mission of the company. And this is some recommendation that what we think Indonesia needs to probably regulate social entrepreneurship as a specific legal entity, as I've been mentioning. And this is the way we want to recognize social mission of social enterprises, and also measuring the social and environmental impacts, because measurement is one of the things I think that's been very much in discussion or in conversation all over the world, but particularly also in Indonesia. And it is very important to have this measurement so that we can actually give we have a standard of actually a measurement to give as part of our sustainability report or way of actually giving a so-called not only financial audit, but giving the social impact audit per se. Number two, improve the understanding of social impact definition and meaning among the stakeholders, so that we can actually speak the common language. I always say that we have to have the same dictionary, and sometimes look at one things, everyone would take it in a different perspective, would have a different definition depending how they experience those words. And this is something is important also, so that we have the same common language. And third, of course, common social enterprise, entrepreneurship awareness and networking, as well as to create social entrepreneurship education, mindset, and skill development. And in which this Kadin is also now is really pushing a development. We call it the entrepreneurship hub. And part of this entrepreneurship hub is not only educating later on just regular entrepreneurship, but actually to also introduce and educate the social enterprise or social entrepreneurs, per se. And again, with the Indonesian new law of the new omnibus law on Cipta Kerja, basically, in a way now creating an entity is easier, although still not social enterprise, but then it takes us a few minutes to actually create with all the online system. We call it the OSS system. and this will also be able to work on. We can have an entity with one just single shareholders, and then we will have a special treatment for this, what we call the MSMEs entities. So with that we can comment towards ESG and how Kadin say will also would like to have our commitments toward the development of the ecosystem of social enterprise in Indonesia. Perhaps that's what I can share a little bit briefly on what Kadin sees as a social enterprise and what we are trying to do and what we see as the opportunity and challenges of social enterprise in Indonesia. I'll give you Pak Melvyn. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Pak Arsjad. Wow, there's a lot of things to pack in, and very encouraged to see, even at Kadin's level, you're building the social impact ecosystem, and okay, this is Arsjad giving us a big scope of the whole country, but we right now ask Ibu Veronica to share about what is she doing in terms of contributing to the social impact space in Indonesia. She's really the founder and running what we call YCAB. Okay, so I leave the time over to my good friend Veronica.
Hi, thank you, Melvyn, for the opportunity. Also, Pak Arsjad, welcoming you here, sir, for the support on social enterprise. And I think I don't know how to add to that because it was quite comprehensive. But what I like personally is that his first slide talk about how ESG is a non-negotiable situation, which is very true. And this is exactly the lingo of not the millennials so much, but the Gen Z. And the talents definitely moving into the sustainable companies. And we're looking at access to finance will be limited if companies like your dream, Melvyn, that in what you said, 20 years, in 10 years, the social enterprise, the social part should not be there anymore because all enterprise should be sustainable and responsible. And I think that's a great vision. I like that because at the end of the day, the accessibility to finance when it's regulated, only the ESG graded company can access to capital or finance, then that would be where your dream will start to come true. So YCAB, I don't know. I don't prepare a deck, so maybe it's a relief to a lot of people, but I do have a 90-second videos that I like to share to just give you an idea what we do, and then maybe we can pick up a conversation from there. So please, Bernice, thank you.
20 tahun perjalanan Yayasan Cinta Anak Bangsa atau yang lebih dikenal dengan YCAB Foundation mempersembahkan dampak sosial untuk Indonesia. YCAB merupakan simbol cinta kami untuk membuat generasi muda Indonesia menjadi lebih mandiri dalam menggapai cita-citanya. Kami adalah social enterprise di mana memiliki unit usaha yang membantu kelangsungan dari program-program yayasan. Donasi yang kami gunakan dipakai untuk membiayai 26 rumah belajar bagi anak muda prasejahtera untuk meningkatkan keterampilan dan akses edukasi di 11 provinsi di Indonesia. Selama 20 tahun kami berdiri di tahun 99, YCAB telah menjangkau 3,5 juta remaja prasejahtera Indonesia, memberikan mereka akses pendidikan. Dan melalui YCAB Ventures, kami telah memberikan pinjaman lunak modal usaha untuk ibu-ibu prasejahtera dengan syarat pendidikan. Karena kami yakin bahwa pendidikanlah yang memutus siklus kemiskinan secara berkelanjutan.
Yeah, that's probably YCAB in the shortest amount of time in 90 seconds, 92 seconds actually. And you get an idea the difficulties that we have actually encountered over the years, like what was in Parshad's slide. One of it talks about there's no structure for social enterprise in Indonesia. So we kind of work ourselves around it so that we can be present in our mission through yayasan structure. And we have business units, meaning we have profit to sustain our work through companies. So for the longest time, 22 years in existence, only the last 5 years, we actually figured it out that these two animals should be housed under one roof. And taking a bit of risk because of the regulatory environment that is limited in Indonesia for social enterprise, we took the risk to have the YCAB Ventures, which is the company now, to be owned by the yayasan. So yayasan, YCAB Ventures, own the YCAB Ventures, some of it. So it's just easier, simpler for us to talk about us, YCAB, as a social enterprise, because of all the learning in my 20 years of trying to pave a way into the social enterprise world. Having the right structure is key to success, I guess, to create impact. Whereas in one of the slides that Pak Arsjad probably quoted from Plus. So Plus is an Indonesian platform, usaha sosial, a platform for social enterprise in Indonesia. There's one of our investee with Stephanie. I think Stephanie Arifin is here, CEO and running friend of Melvyn as well. We've been trying to help the social enterprise world to kind of have this dialogue, conversation, and training, mentoring, and all of that. And of course, at the end of the day, I guess opportunity to funding. So we try to work in such a way through our investees to also support the mission. So at the end of the day, social enterprise is where money meets mission. And we have to keep the balance. Don't slip away for 20 some years. And that's a great learning. And I guess for me, number one, structure is important. Number two, also the business model. A lot of companies, doesn't have to be yayasan plus companies, even just companies, startups, have to go through an evolution until they kind of get it right, get the right balance between, I guess, their goals and the kind of investment that they need to grow. So investability is also a key element to growth, which we talk a little bit more about that in the plenary session with Dr. Kim Tan, who is one of my mentor as well. Really appreciate him opening our roads into this impact investing. So YCAB throughout the years have tried and done a different kind of, I guess, model. But now we are very happy that we arrived here. So it's a simpler way. So the yayasan, the foundation, works in the education, providing education, but not just education that leads to jobs. We talk about job creation in the plenary session, but also importantly is sustainability for those community that we touch. So yayasan runs the Education, and Ventures, which is YCAB Ventures, runs the two things. Currently now, number one is the economic empowerment, that we fund micro lendings to the mothers with the condition that their kids stay in school, which is linked to the yayasan. And the second thing, we invest in like-minded social enterprises that supports the mission and vision of YCAB. So we have around 7 investees now, and we also just launched under this YCAB Ventures an IWEF, is an Indonesian women empowerment fund. It's a $10 million fund with 20% risk guaranteed by the DFAT. So this is also good news, because I think with the SE workforce that I took note, 40% led by women versus 25% in the marketplace. That's a great number. I think we need to empower women, not because we are gender biased, not that we don't want to support men in business, but I think women in business is much more affected during COVID, especially in COVID, with I think 50 or 60% laid off in the workplace, or 40% at least in some areas, but probably globally almost 50% versus about 20-some% male workers. I think that's also an interesting thing, how women are blessed with a heart to serve. At the end of the day, we have to support them so they can serve more and better and greater. So I guess I will end with that note. Back to you, Melvyn.
Thank you. Yeah, along the lines of women, that's just I understand. I heard Pak Arsjad mention about Duanyam. And that's great, because she's a friend of ours as well. I think she was in the last 2 conferences in Jakarta for TBN. So we want to support that. And actually, over here, there are actually a number of people. I saw some of the, for example, our cohort 3, we've got Bayu from Commerce, we've got Ika from Setera, and Lena from Inspiracom. So these are actually revenue generating social enterprises that can potentially be investment ready. And that's where we can really get them to tap into Kadin and, getting some mentoring from Veronica, YCAB and so on. And then, of course, we have a Yayasan friend from Bali, and they are really into looking at seaweed, not just reproduction, but how do you make seaweed into something that's for food and for production as well. So that's great. Now I don't want to take too much of the time, but there are questions. If you have questions, please, you can post it on the chat. It's easier so that at least I can read that out. But there's one question that is given as asked of, I think, Arsjad. So is there any funds and facilities program for Kadin to scale up as is in Indonesia? And does Kadin program help humanitarian projects? So perhaps Pak Arsjad, you like to comment on that?
Hi, well, let me try to answer the 2 questions, right? Perhaps first on the humanitarian projects, right? Now, basically, right now, just for everybody's information, I'm new to the chairman of Kadin. This is my 9th weeks of my chairmanship, and
Wow.
and if you talk about the cabinets, we just last month we elected the so-called cabinet ministers, and then below them there'll be like the what we call the vice chief or people that will helping the organization that's being right now organized. Also, that will be announced actually by end of this month. So we are in the stage of organizing ourselves, but in order to answer the humanitarian projects, number one is that Kadin will have now someone who's actually, we call it like a minister, the vice chairman in charge of social and how you say in English is bencana. What do you call it? Disasters relief.
Yeah.
Relief, right?
Like that, yeah.
So we have that vice chairman actually who are in charge of that, and we have signed a MOU with the Red Cross of Indonesia, and soon we'll also have a MOU with the special body in the government that is taking care of the relief of disasters relief. And so soon, yes, we'll have the organization, but we'll be not working ourselves. It's always a collaboration. And we talk about the funding. Usually, the funding now, what we're doing, focusing on the today's COVID. Kadin has a movement, what we call as war against the pandemic. And on this war against the pandemic, basically, Kadin positioned himself to actually assist the government and actually the people of Indonesia. Number one is on vaccination. That's number one is we, as a business community in Indonesia, we contribute in buying some of the vaccines, and that will help to reduce the government budget, and so the government budget can be utilized for other social needs of the people. And we also help the government on the vaccination process. So on this, we actually distributing vaccines to our, because Kadin, is there is the Kadin Indonesia, and then those also in every provinces, 34 provinces, and every province there is also the regency cities, and Kadin also exists there. And so we're using our network and to actually do this help the government for the vaccination, and at the same time we also help the government in the development of oxygens. So we've accumulated, not only oxygen bottles or and apparatus to help oxygen, because in order to help for the people who has COVID, who needs immediate oxygen, and so we have that helping out all over Indonesia in all 34 provinces. We also created what we call the oxygen house, which then is bringing the oxygen, so-called of oxygen, near to the production of the oxygen. And so we have done that also, and we are actually right now, Kadin also helping with rice. We've bought more than $25 million worth of rice that we actually distributed throughout Indonesia, working with the police and the armies in order to distribute. But at the same time, we're also doing medicine. We were trying to how to reduce the price of medicine in Indonesia on supply and demand. So we're buying a lot of medicine to actually distribute it so that to make the prices down, to make sure it's affordable to the people. So those are things that we are doing right now. But as the first 3 months of our new Kadin, in helping the government on that humanitarian, mostly focusing on COVID-19. So soon there will be a vice chair and also the one in charge of that, and we welcome any collaboration that we can do together, and it's funded by companies in Indonesia. And on the second question, I think in regards to our fund of facilities program from Kadin to scale up social enterprise in Indonesia. I think that's the second question. On that one, as I said now, with the new program of Kadin, we have one vice chair in charge of entrepreneurship. His name is Aldi. Actually, Aldi is also a fellow of us. He was Global Shapers and also YGL for the World Economic Forum. And he is in charge for that entrepreneurship program. And we have a committee on that, which is particularly on social enterprise. And that is actually in charge there is Dini, who is also the AVPN's country manager for AVPN. And so she's part of that. So, and at the same time, right now, we are actually working with Bank Mandiri, with Mandiri Sekuritas actually, creating what we call Indonesia Impact Fund. On that, as an initial start, and hopefully to launch it perhaps next year, hopefully early next year. and as to commemorate Indonesia G20 hosting G20 in Indonesia, and where one of the theme is about sustainability, and so we want to have that as a gift from Indonesia in launching this so-called Indonesia Impact Fund. And this is in also collaboration and working. Hopefully, will be followed by all members on the APEC also members. So we are doing that on the Impact Fund, and soon we'll able to share on that, and that will be also will be aligning to the programs that we are doing for what we call the SME innovation to develop entrepreneurs, which then also partly is also for social entrepreneurs. That's the answers, I think, to the question.
Thank you, thank you. Well, I didn't know you were so new to Kadin. Really welcome. So we've got really your the first time getting you. Thank you so much. And
Yes.
by the way, really, since you mentioned about the health and so on, I think in our midst, I'm just looking through our, the people who are in this audience. There is one of the enterprises that are involved in health. Okay, it's called Liveful, Livful, and actually they have came up with what we call a COVID-19 antigen rapid test kit, I think, and so they are actually bigger, but they have one part of it which is offering this kind of thing to a social enterprise, or maybe even for those who are not commercial to really help in the test kit. So some of you may want to link up with them. I think his name is Arthur. I'll just put some, maybe Arthur, you can put something on the chat later on so that we can do that. I mean, there are some of these things that can connect, and that's the purpose of it. The other thing is that, Arsjad, I don't know if you, just now I started by introducing the ambassador, the Philippines ambassador to Indonesia. He's actually on this this chat, this audience. This is Ambassador Wee. So Ambassador Wee has got a great heart to want to work on things like seaweed, I think, for seaweed farmers and so on. So it could be, let me see whether Ambassador Wee, can you say hello or something like that so that at least people can see you. I'll put a speaker view on that. Where's Ambassador Wee?
I think he might have stepped out.
Oh, it stepped out. Okay. Maybe the other one that that people, if you want to connect with, is Pak Kenny. You can say hello so that at least we know there's a face. Pak Kenny, can you say
hello? Thank you.
Yeah.
Selamat siang, Arsjad. Thank you for your comprehensive explanation. In fact, I know Veronica for 20 years. So we already start foundation a long time ago. I have 4 foundations. Arsjad, I'm an alumni with Boy Tohir. So actually, I'm in board with him at USC, and we've been promoting social impact. But I'd like to share with you, in fact, it's Dr. Kim Tan. I invited him back in 2010. And I have shared to Pak Agwan, Cici, Pak Teddy Rahmat, Pak Edwin. A lot of people still hesitate to do it because, like Vero said, there is no structure. In fact, I introduced Bayu to Mason, but they cannot invest. So I think the structure is very important. So we have been promoting social impact, I think, for about 10 years. Then I visited Dr. Kim Tan place in, I think was about 2 years ago in Africa. And he has done a lot. In fact, I think his whole portfolio is about 500 to 600 million US dollars. And he's doing it for the UK government. In fact, Kim was telling me, Kenny, if you can find a few business people in Indonesia, let's say they put 3 to 5 million, I can bring about to 20 million. So the only thing is that I think now you are so comprehensive. I think we like to have some action going on. In fact, Melvyn and Mason is the one who responded this, and they do it in Singapore. And I told Mason, because we Indonesian will not put the money in Singapore and then from Singapore go to Indonesia. So we will do it, the social impact in the Indonesian way. And that's why this year, finally, we decided using the Bali as the ecosystem for the social impact under TBN Indonesia. And the first person that I think quite doing well is not Indonesian, I'm sorry to say, is Aaron Fisherman. I invited him to meet with me in 2015. He started only with around 100 million rupiah and I think about 1 billion together with some Indonesian to do it. And later on, after 2 years, he got investment about $3 million from these, what they call the cashew traders from Hong Kong. And today, in fact, that's why I'm challenging why we do it in Bali. I said, how come the Aaron Fisherman is the one who do it in Bali? And we are the Indonesian.
Yeah.
Actually, Gojek also is of this. That's why we do it in Bali, and we need your support. And I think I did already for foundation. It's not that sustainable. Cannot be scaled up. That's why I have promoting this. I think to AD side manager, to all the people. I think maybe it start from you first and Boy Tohil. With you and Boy Tohil first. I share with the boy already. Thank you.
But Kenny, I think because he's a guy who is burning with this kind of passion, it would be great if we, after that, kind of like connect with, do a connecting, because there are some social enterprises here that actually have got potential to be supported. Okay. Now, given the time that is available, I want to ask, is there any questions? There are a few questions that perhaps are being mentioned here, right?
There are two.
What are they?
About the challenges YCAB face and the key factors. Maybe in the interest of time, I'll just try to respond as quickly as I can. Yes, COVID does affect us in many ways, especially the children, the students in our Rumah Belajar, and our ibu-ibu, the customers, the clients of our microfinance. And the company saw a big loss last year, but thank God, this half year of 2021, we have recovered all the losses and now turned green. Thank God for that. But it was not an easy journey because we saw an MPL as high as 40% from between March, April, up to July. It kind of recovered, but yeah, it broke our heart. But we are resilient. I think that's one of the response to what's the key factor. As a social enterprise, you have to be more resilient than just another entrepreneurs, because we talk about how difficult it is, because one, you have to be profitable, then investable, right? Number two, you have to have an impact measurement, which the two things cannot be divided, cannot be separated from each other. That does not make you a social enterprise if you don't have both factors. So your life is just harder as social entrepreneurs. So I don't know if this is discouraging, but I think I want to encourage, because if you want more challenge, this is it. This is where you'll find multiple challenges at once. Yeah. So how do we navigate ourselves throughout COVID? I think it's important to have corporate values, our core values. These values in particular has helped us really throughout the difficulties. Our core values, very happy to share with you, is I serve, I-S-E-R-V-E, and that's all the values that I will name here: integrity, service, empathy, resilience, vibrancy, and excellence. I think if you keep all these core values in the most difficult time, people will recognize that. People will see you through. And thankfully, in 2020, I did say the ventures booked a big loss. We lost 1/3 of our portfolio really, but then recover it now already. But the Yayasan saw an increase of donation because of the trust that, and of course, because we've been around so long. and in the COVID relief, then COVID recovery, we've been supported, we've been offered a lot of support from our corporate partners, our philanthropic, high net worth individual as well, to really walk alongside of us. One of the thing that we are still doing since the beginning of the year is vaccination, because it's very important. I know vaccination is not our core program, but we do this to support the government to accelerate the vaccination nationwide. And we've done 45,000, maybe almost 50,000 this week, vaccination since the month of March at the rate of around 1,000 a day. So that's what we are, at least we could contribute. I mean, the PPEs, all those, unlike Kadin will go big on the oxygen concentrator and generators. We do the little things that also will support the acceleration of the relief from COVID. So that's just one example. But I think core values is important. Who you are is seen through your values, the company, that the people on the ground, to really maintain this integrity, service, empathy, resilience, vibrancy, and excellence in everything they do. So thank you.
Wow, thank you, man. You actually sum up for what TBN is, because frankly, it's true. We are not just wanting to help businesses. The businesses are important, the social enterprises, but we want to also help the social entrepreneurs in terms of character formation, because that kind of thing works together to ensure much better success. So I really appreciate those connections. And by the way, Arsjad as well as Veronica has put in their contact. It's great that you can contact. You just refer to that. Hey, we were at this Indonesian dialogue in the TBN side. I mean, TBN's heart is always in terms of like how do we empower people. That's why it's so important. Don't just go about doing business. We have to study your business case, help you to see whether it can be investable. Because if it's not investable, it's very hard to attract money. I mean, over here, Veronica already has a YCAB Ventures, and over here we mentioned about Mason of Garden Impact. Garden Impact, they are in social impact investment fund, but they are looking for social enterprises that are investable. You have to ask them what are some of these things, and that's where I think TBN comes in and tell you, hey, these are what the investors are looking for. Otherwise, we can try to tap into all the other funds and so on. Every time if you meet rejection, it's pretty tough, especially when Veronica mentioned that we are operating on 2 KPIs. One is social KPI, another is financial KPI. All right. So thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I don't want to take too much of your time. I really appreciate Arsjad for coming in and actually give us the scope of it. I mean, we also see whether TBN can actually help connect with Kadin and see whether we can come alongside whatever support is needed. So we see how we can add on to the whole Indonesian ecosystem. There's a lot of opportunities here. Like I said, everything is posted here. We are recording this session. After recording, I can send you the recording if you miss out or your friends miss out in anything. Before we go, I just want to encourage you, if Ernest, you can post the impact. Okay, this coming Saturday, and it's open to all. In other words, the public as well as those who are attendees to the conference. We have what we call an Impact Cafe. And in this Impact Cafe, we featured 32 social enterprises. Not all of them are Indonesians, but quite a lot of them are Indonesians, because we have a few cohorts, and some of the names that you see, like commerce, are Inspire Con, Kita Hibat, and so on. They all are featured there. Now, what is this Impact Cafe? It's like a virtual Shark Tank. Okay, well, not quite a Shark Tank because every social enterprise will have about 10 minutes to present themselves, okay, one after another. So in rapid fire, they will present. So you get an idea of sectors like agriculture, fisheries, healthcare, education, F&B, commerce, fashion, training, recruitment, and so on, all in 3 hours. So it's one after another. It's actually the highlight of our conference. So you're welcome to, if you can see here, and we can actually send it to you or post it in the chat as well. You can see all these links, right? Go and register that. You straight away will get into either room 1 or room 2 because we are running 2 rooms concurrently. And you can actually come in and out of the rooms as well because they are featuring different things, different industries. So I want to encourage you to do that because that's our part, at least, in supporting the social enterprises for which we believe in. Okay, thank you so much. And I really want to, wish everybody a good conference and a good day. In fact, by Friday, that's our kind of like almost final day of our conference. And have a great weekend. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Pa Arsjad. Thank you, Veronica. Thank you for gracing the occasion. Thank you, Kenny, and all the others.
All
right.
Take care. God bless you.
Bye, Mason.
Bye.
Arsjad, bye. Thank you. I got some friends here.
Yeah. Yeah, you can connect.